I wanted to talk about the Kilesas and the hindrances. These are two things I sometimes had a hard time. Got them confused, but they're closely related. The Kilesas, which is a Pali word which translates to torments of mind, are attachment, aversion, and delusion. The hindrances include attachment, aversion, and delusion, often rendered with different words, but those are the ones I like. And then they also include restlessness and what's called sloth and torpor. So, attachment, you go back to the Four Noble Truths, of which I have a talk. Um, Attachment is the cause of suffering um, because inevitably everything is ephemeral. I won't go into that. You can just look at the other talk or anyone else's talk on the Four Noble Truths. So, attachment is a hindrance to spiritual development or a torment of the mind, being the cause of suffering, and so it holds you back from awakening. So, just brief overview of those. Aversion is pushing things away. It's the opposite of attachment. So we live in a dualistic world, and so attachment and aversion are two sides of the same coin. And so aversion obviously is a torment of the mind or a hindrance to spiritual development. A big part of spiritual path is letting be, and I'll do a talk on this later too. And this isn't resignation. This isn't conceptual stoicism or nihilism. Uh, so much in life we can't control, and the nature of reality is as it is, and so that's what we're letting be. We want spaciousness around things we can't control. There's the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi that was adapted for AA or 12-step programs, and I've kind of changed the wording for myself. And may I have the strength to accept what I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So that ties into not attachment, letting be. So aversion, pushing away, doesn't help. And not accepting ourselves as we are, not having compassion, beating ourselves up, that's just aversion to the aversion. And obviously that's not going to bring you to clarity. And delusion or ignorance is where all the suffering stems from, all these hindrances stem from. Ignorance of the nature of reality, of the way things are, is the root cause. Because we cling to pleasant things and we push unpleasant things away, hoping and being told by our culture that this is going to make us happy because we're ignorant of the Dhamma, the truth. And I've touched a great deal on that in my talks about the three characteristics and the Four Noble Truths, so I won't go into too much depth here. You can look at those talks. And then we get into sloth and torpor. So if you don't have it, energy is one of the factors of awakening. If you don't have the energy to do the practice, to incline your mind, obviously it will hold you back from spiritual development. And restlessness is the opposite problem. And I talked before about the balance, finding the balance. And the Buddha gave a talk to a musician, and he talked about tuning the lute, not too tight and not too loose for the strings. And it's the same thing here. And so if you're restless, obviously it'd be hard to sit in meditation and cultivate serenity and tranquility, to really focus or practice anything. So those are the taints or the torments of mind, the kilesas, and the five hindrances.